I'm just not sure how to teach her son how to forgive the monster that murdered his sister. We as a family are leaning on God for that. Jameson also knows about the helpers. He knows about this court. He knows about the jury. He knows about the police from the local to federal. He knows about this community. We've told him these were the people that helped his sister when she was hurting. I'd like to share with you a few words that Jameson, as we were talking to him, because he wanted to know, where are you guys going? What are you doing? And I said, we're going to speak for your sister, and we're going to tell everyone how important she was to you. And this is what he said. Tell everyone my name is Jameson. I'm 7 years old. My sister's Harmony. I love Harmony. I miss her. I hope I get to see her again. My sister had beautiful blue eyes, and we smile alike. I liked having fun with her on the playground. She gave me a broken Elmo toy that was hers. I still have that. But I have the Minnie Mouse pillow and a new Elmo that's not broken. I keep it in my closet for her. I'm really sad she's an angel. I miss her. She was my best friend. I hope she can see me playing basketball, being silly with my
It is
brothers.
so sad,
And I
Jackie.
wish I could bring Harmony to my
I'm glad
school
you're
to
here
my
with
friends
me.
and the teacher. She loves the color purple and Minnie Mouse. I made a heart for her in purple and red with mirrors so I can look for her in heaven. I hope she sees me. The red is for my heart and the purple is for her. I love my sister. I miss her. I hope she's eating M&Ms in heaven. I hope her glasses are safe and not broken. And I miss you, and I will always love you, big sister. Thank you, Your Honor.
This should be a death penalty case.
Your Honor, finally, with us today is Harmony's foster mother, Michelle Rafferty.
Hey, Free Sod.
Alive for 66 months.
If anything should have been a death penalty case, it's this
She
one.
was with the Raffertys, Michelle and her husband Tim. They both prepared a statement as well, and would like to speak with you today.
Your Honor, I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak here today. This is truly the hardest thing I've ever had to do. My name is Michelle Rafferty, and along with my husband and my 5 children, we have the privilege of being Harmony's foster family. We shared our hearts, our home, and our life with her, and she filled our lives with joy and laughter. We lost a daughter, and my children lost their sister. We grieve for her every day because we thought we'd always see her again. Harmony was full of life and always happy. We jokingly told her that she leaves a sparkle wherever she goes. She loved to be in the middle of everything that was going on, and she never missed a beat. Harmony always had 2 mummies, me and Crystal, but only had one daddy, and that was my husband, Tim. I am beyond grateful
So sad.
Harmony had the relationship with a loving daddy and knew what that relationship should look like. She loved being a sister and had an amazing bond with our youngest daughter. And when our second daughter had her baby, she was delighted to be an auntie. Harmony was a friend to everyone, but she also had a best friend named Dominic. She loved going to church and loved going to school. She loved Minnie Mouse, playing outside, playing dress up, playing house, and loved to cuddle. She had a large community that she loved, and they loved her. She was kind and compassionate and always willing to share, even her Oreo cookies and favorite dogs. Since everything came to light, I have had trouble sleeping and concentrating. We had to explain to our children things that we never wanted them to hear and explain to them why a father who was supposed to love and protect her was being arrested for murder. Your Honor, I'm asking you to give Adam the fullest sentence. Adam is hateful and selfish and continues to be so by not telling us where her body is. Adam knew he could have brought Harmony back to us. He had options, but always chose himself each time. He never put Harmony first. There were consequences for his actions, and he will have to live with them the rest of his life. Our family is strong and beginning to heal by the grace of God, We know Harmony is safe in the arms of Jesus, never to be hurt again. So despite the evil brought to light in this
I
trial,
agree,
we will
Jackie.
continue to move forward in love.
She
It
could have
is love
saved her
wins.
life.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, in addition to those statements, the state is asking you to consider not only all of the details and the facts
Is
you
that
heard
him?
during trial, and not
Wow, he
only,
looks like shit.
as you would for any defendant, their criminal history, of which is laid out there and which this court is already well aware of. But we are also asking the court to take into account 2 additional charges which are still pending. Firearm that was belonging and was owned by Mr. Ewell, and also a high-point handgun. These are 2 charged but not yet adjudicated offenses that can be considered by the court when it comes to sentencing. We did not ask you to take the defendant's murder of his daughter into account at the last sentencing for the other firearms, given that it had occurred before her death. But these 2 not yet tried armed career criminal charges, offenses for weapons belonging to Mr. Ewell and a high-point handgun should be considered to show that the minimum does not apply to this man. The court is already aware of the defendant's statements to many other people, many other people through many different facets of his life, with regards to being asked where his daughter was and for him to lie to them. This was subject to many different interpretations. The court has discussed this on different different times, in different hearings. With regards to those events and with regards also to the gun crimes that I speak of, Mr. Ewell's firearm and the high-point handgun, we feel that the state has already shown the requisite level of certainty that the defendant is present in the Manchester Police Department who can provide additional information if the court so chooses to hear that. So at this point, I would leave it up to the court's
They have no
discretion,
leverage for
if
him
the court
to
consider
tell.
those 2 charges
I mean, he's either going to get life for life. I mean, and the way he sees it.
All right, thank you. I don't feel that I need to hear from him at this juncture. If the court feels it necessary to hear from him, I will do so later. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honor, one of the things that you saw during trial were the many different ways in which the defendant tried to conceal his crime, not just physically, but also with false statements and lies to others. Lies as to where she was, as to what had occurred, where it had occurred in the car, where he was at the time. Even lies, as you heard from some witnesses, as to whether or not he loved or cared for Harmony in the first place. You heard and saw the defendant try to sell his lies to anybody that would listen. And why does that matter? Because it's one thing to deny the charges that the state then
I wish they had more leverage
bring forth proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But it's another one
so that he would tell where she's at. But I mean, let's face it, 45 years at his age is life.
He's deserving of more than the minimum punishment.
So
You've even heard
that's why he's
yourself
not
how the defendant
telling.
tried over and over again to get
I bet he
Carrie
thinks he's
involved.
going to use it at a later time, but he can't. This is
Including
it.
the verbal threats to her, photographs that we saw of her black eyes, testimony from other independent witnesses of him either hurting her or her running away, being injured, grabbing a cell phone out of her hands and manipulating her even months later to get rid of telephones that had evidence of the crimes on them. You've seen those bruises. You've heard those stories from independent eyewitnesses. That was not just an attack on her. That was an attack on our system of justice. And to hold him accountable for that independently.
I'm glad they made him come today.
The underlying crime of the homicide.
I don't think it
and
should be an
second assault.
option that you don't have to go.
As you've seen in this case, if we don't do that, if we don't hold people accountable for those actions afterwards, then the criminal justice system is
This
failing
kind of crime,
because it allows
anyway.
defendants everywhere under the concept of general deterrence to think that they can tamper with witnesses and destroy evidence. And if they're caught, well, it'll just be subsumed by the underlying crime. That's another reason why more than the minimum sentence is necessary. And finally, I'm not going to go into full detail on it, Your Honor, but you've seen in the state sentencing memorandum, there are 3 cases that are on point. And when looking for comparison here, and those are State versus Caitlin
She
Marin,
could
State
have
versus
saved her
Mark
life,
Freaky,
that
State
piece of
versus
shit,
Chad Evans, all
Kayla.
cited in her sentencing memorandum.
She could have at any
In those
point in
matters
time.
involved individuals who were convicted of reckless second-degree murder for injuring children. And all three of those individuals, either immediately after trial or at sentence review, all had sentences that were in their 40s. And all three of those people didn't have the criminal history that this defendant has. And all three of them didn't do afterwards to their victims and what they did to their bodies, what he did to harm them. So in the state's mind, how can the defendant here get anything less for that? His behavior is worse. When we look at that, if and when he should ask for sentence review after today, if they look at that,
Reunification isn't always
his behavior was less
what the goal
than
should
or that his
be.
punishment should be less than theirs. There's nothing about this little girl's death
Too much. They want the
her
reunification.
father did afterwards that can ever be classified as minimal. He is still determined 5 years later that she had no peace, no justice, no rest. So the state is asking you to do what justice requires, and that's nothing less than the state's recommended sentence. Harmony deserves it, her family deserves it, the people of the state deserve it, and definitely
He's eat up with
this defendant
evil.
deserves it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Attorney Smith? Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to start reading from State versus Willie at 163 New Hampshire 532. We held that just as it is unconstitutional to increase a defendant's punishment because he refuses to admit guilt, so too is it unconstitutional for a court to draw an adverse inference of lack of remorse from a defendant's silence at sentencing. Because the only affirmative way for a defendant who maintains his innocence through the criminal process to express remorse at sentencing is to forgo his right to remain silent, using a defendant's silence at sentencing to infer that he lacks remorse generally is a defendant's constitutional privilege against self-incrimination. The state said that their offer to reduce or offer a reduced sentence of 35 years if Adam Montgomery took particular action within the next 7 days, and his reaction to that reflected heartless, no remorse. You can imagine, anybody can, that somebody walking into a sentencing hearing for something where he maintains his innocence that he did not do would be a difficult situation. That person would be assisted by his counsel.
Yeah. After lunch, he passes out.
For something that you didn't do would be difficult.
He deserves
Would
it there.
understand that when people are trying to throw him away forever for something that
He
you
takes
didn't
good care of
do
me,
would
so
be difficult, and that he would be schooled in reactions and how to react and how to appropriately respond within this courtroom. The state was doing a stunt. They were seeking a reaction today from Adam Montgomery in the courtroom by their stunt for something that they said, give us 7 days. And then Mr. Montgomery, acting appropriate with his counsel's representation, was called heartless, immoral, and no remorse. Mr. Montgomery does not have to express remorse here for something where he maintains his innocence. It would violate his constitutional rights against self-incrimination. And talk a little bit about the use of priors, as argued in the state's memorandum, to elevate what is a sentence as a mandatory minimum that is extraordinarily high, and it is high because anytime a child dies, an innocent child dies, deserves a strong punishment. And the legislature has spoken with the mandatory minimum of that punishment. The lack of rehabilitation is what the priors are put on for. I don't think anybody can predict
He likes
what
that
another
camera
person
being
would
on
be
him,
like
don't he?
after 35 years of incarceration. To assume the lack of rehabilitation for prior records that occurred from the time that Mr. Montgomery was quite young, that many, fueled by drug and drug addiction that was introduced to his life by some of the very witnesses, family members, wives, who participated in maintaining his addiction and in a lot of the conduct that he did.
Oh my God. She's an enabler, isn't she?
Especially after what would be the mandatory minimum under this sentence. The use of the remaining charges also are inappropriate here. You did not consider the charge of homicide at his prior sentencing on the armed career criminal charges that he faced May a year ago. But you did consider the armed career criminal charges, or at least you didn't indicate that you didn't, and the state certainly argued that they should be considered as well. All of that conduct occurred in a relatively short time period, and while we dispute the probable cause, even the law says that you can consider the grand jury indictment as probable cause, which I think is completely inappropriate, but that is the law. However, his sentences on armed career criminal took into account both his prior and his subsequent gun charges. He's serving a sentence currently of what comes to be about 32, because he got 15 as a minimum on one, 15 as a minimum on another. The 5 years of the 7-year minimum on the final charge that you sentenced him on, you suspended 2 years. Didn't even totally give him the max on that, but certainly increased his sentence.
I wish you'd shut up so they get on with it. You're not going to get him out of this.
The pending gun charges. Another issue I need to address, and I'm afraid we only addressed part of it in chambers, my fault. The names of the no contact order, I don't have, so we don't have a position on that as far as the names. However, since the state has asked for an incarcerated sentence on each of the charges, I don't believe a no contact order can be issued on the charges under interpretation of current law. However, I will say that the names will be provided to Adam, and I can assure this court that Adam will not seek any contact with the Sorrell family. So sorry, family. So, what do you do for sentencing Adam Montgomery? Adam Montgomery does not dispute the time sought by the state for abuse of corpse and falsifying evidence. The state has requested maximum sentences on that, consecutive, and Adam does understand that it affected the investigation and that behavior affects justice in the court system. And he does not dispute the sentences requested by the state on that. However, while he maintains his innocence, he also knows that you will be sentencing him on the other charges because he has been convicted. And any other action he takes will have to be after sentencing. So as to the other charges, while he maintains his innocence on each of them, he can't offer a sentence because no sentence would be fair for him to say that they would be fair when he is maintaining his innocence and he did not commit those charges. So he can't offer you something that's appropriate for them, but he would request that you take into account his objections to the memorandum and especially his silence here at sentencing as being an appropriate position to take when he is asserting his innocence. We request that the court issue a sentence that is less than what the state has asked, and that it make the remaining charges concurrent with abuse of courts and falsifying evidence. Adam Montgomery did not kill his daughter, but when he discovered his daughter's death, he broke, and he did inexplicable things. Even he can't explain his actions. But eventually he pulled it together, and he was able to say goodbye to his daughter. And that's what he did. If I may have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, you may. Actually.
My co-counsel has reminded me of something, and again, this was something that was not in the sentencing memorandum, and it was last minute, and it is the stunt that was pulled by the state, and it is that plea offers, responses, negotiations are inadmissible, and I think that they are inadmissible for any purpose, including sentencing. Certainly, I know in other cases, if I was to say the state offered something pre-trial and now they're seeking twice that, the state would shut me down under that rule. 410? 410. So I think that entire stunt should be stricken from the record as well.
Briefly, Your Honor, I made no such comment about plea offers that were made prior to trial in any way, shape, or form. When I called the defendant heartless, immoral, selfish, and unapologetic, and in doing so, it's about the two crimes that he has admitted that he has done. It's the falsifying physical evidence and it's the abuse of corpse, which he admitted and even told the jury that they could find him guilty of. Those are the ones relating to the placement of the body. There's no reason to hold on to that piece of information with regards to that. The statement is not offering anything because this completely lies within the hands of the court. The statement is to make the change of what the state's recommendation would be. It's not an offer of a guaranteed sentence in any way, shape, or form. And again, it's on those charges, the one where he does not maintain his innocence anymore. Falsifying physical evidence and abuse of a corpse. I think just separately, Your Honor, with regards to the victims that the state is asking for the no contact order, that would include Crystal Sorey and her family, Sorey. That would also include the Miller family, Your Honor, and that would be Harmony's brother's family, and as well as the Rafferty family. I can provide those felons to the court monitor afterwards. I think those are the only additional things that the state wants to add.
Attorney Gotti, what do you say to the state v. Toll issue that's raised by the defense about the no contact order on stand committed sentences, where all of the sentences that you're asking for in this case are stand committed, but you're also asking for the no contact provision?
Your Honor, I think with regards to that, rather than to prolong this particular hearing, the state would then also ask for a $5,000 fine on each felony for that to be suspended for the period so that the no contact order can be obeyed during that time period. And if he violates the no contact order, then that could be imposed.
Suspended for what period?
I would say suspended for a period of, Well, on the 2 Class B misdemeanors, I would say suspended for at least a period of 7 years upon the beginning of that serving of that sentence. And for the charge of second-degree murder, I would say beginning on for a 20-year time period, beginning when he starts serving that sentence.
Do you want to address that, Attorney Smith? I'm just thinking about that for a moment. I mean, Attorney Agani, on that, the consequence of a violation of the order would be the imposition of the fine.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
For clarity in sentencing, I think 5,000 is illegal for any one of those charges, although certainly combinations of certain charges can equal that amount. I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another, because as I said, with regard to the family, Crystal Sorey and her family, Mr. Montgomery will not be reaching out to any of them.
All right, thank you. Council, approach for just a minute.
As council approaches, JB here with you live in the Stream Center, folks. Again, a reminder, after the sentence is given, after court is adjourned, a ton to break down here, a lot of twists and turns. We are taking a live look here at Adam Montgomery. Again, we have the attorneys on both sides approaching the bench here for a brief recess for the courtroom audio as a result of this discussion that is currently ongoing. The defense, let's start with really quickly an offer being put on the table, hoping to get the location of Harmony's remains from Adam Montgomery. Really the one thing that he has left to offer Harmony Montgomery's family and friends. As we understand it, the offer itself for a lesser sentence for fewer years in prison in exchange for Harmony's location went unanswered. And so as a result, Adam Montgomery at this stage in the sentencing hearing will not be giving the location of Harmony's remains. And the defense instead responded by calling that final offer a stunt done to get some kind of a reaction out of that. Live
All
after.
right, nothing further from the state? Nothing further from you, Attorney Smith?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to take a 15-minute recess so I can consider all of the information and statements that have been provided, and then I'll come back and announce my sentence. Thank you.